Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews. Yeah, we're a little late this week. Been a little under the weather and just, things in life going on. We're not going to discuss that here. Why? Because no matter what, there's always new comics. New comics always makes things better. So it's actually a really tiny week this week. Very, very surprisingly tiny. So we should be able to get through it pretty quickly. First up, we have Kroma, number 1. Written and drawn by Lorenzo di Filelsi. So what the basic premise of this is so there's this this town that's inside a wall, and I guess every year or every so often they have this gathering where there's this monster that they let loose, and then they chase it down. They don't kill the monster, but they capture it, and it's just like it's like a special holiday sort of thing. And so that's how the story starts. But what it is there's one of the younger boys, Zet, who he sees the monster, but he catches a glimpse of a girl inside the monster. And so what it is it reminds him of his mother, who apparently was a witch, or was said to be a witch, and she was banished from the city. And what you find out through the story is that there's no color in the city. Everything's drab. They actually even the fruit or stuff they cover with the chalk, so there's just no color, because apparently color is bad. So it's kind of interesting what Delphisi is doing here is with really telling a story with color and without color. So outside the kingdom or whatever, there is tons of color. And so what it is the boy actually goes up to talk to the girl and finds out, she's not a monster, but she has two different colored eyes, where everybody else is once again kind of colorless. Like the color has been evolutioned out of these people. And so the president, or the head guy, sends Zed and some kids out to teach them a lesson about how you have to follow the rules and stuff. And when they're gathering the chalk, one of the guys is killed specifically to have the monsters attack them to basically scare them into being, fall into place. And so that's really kind of the setup here. And it's really fascinating what he's done here with this story and how it really unfolds. And I love the fact that, it's told from the point of view of Zet, who, obviously there's something going on with his mother, and then is his mother alive or dead? We don't know. Is she related to this girl? We don't know, because they keep this girl in a tower, and once again they do this religious thing, and it's very interesting how he's setting everything up. There's a lot of setup here, but there's a lot of meat on the bone in this first issue. Like I said, the story's really amazing. It ends on with a really good cliffhanger, in the sense of you will definitely want to read the second issue, because like I said, this was really a good book, and the artwork is absolutely incredible. And like I said, the really fascinating thing is how he uses color, because what he, especially in the city, it's not black and white per se. It's black and white with gray tones, and there's also a little bit of blue tones, so it's not monochrome, but it has that kind of colorless, but with color, and that's quite fascinating. And then of course when you see the trees and stuff outside, it's full color, and it's just really, the art is absolutely amazing. This is really a big surprising book, and definitely well worth checking out. I really highly recommend this book. Definitely check it out. Next up we have Batman One Bad Day, Mr. Freeze, number 1, written by Jerry Dugan, with artwork by Matteo Scalera. So this continues the one-shots. Each month there's going to be a one-shot of a separate villain, and they're done by different creative teams. So this one centers on Mr. Freeze, and for me, there was definitely no it really seemed a lot like of the Batman animated series Heart of Ice. Mr. Freeze. Now, it's still Mr. Freeze in the comic, but I think it has that tone of the one thing about that animated that episode was that it really showed you how that Mr. Freeze is a tragic character. So what Dugan does is he really grasps upon that here, and so it's also set in Christmas time, obviously because of winter, and so Robin is the initial story starts off with them catching a villain, and Robin kind of asks Batman, hey, we need to, maybe he'll get better and he won't rob again. Batman's like, no, he's always going to be a bad guy. And then Robin's like, well, why did we send him to Arkham? And so Robin has this thing where are villains always bad? Can they be reformed? And so that's what's interesting about using Mr. Freeze as the villain, because it allows it. So what it is they set up a thing for him to help save his wife, Nora, who's been frozen and stuff. And once again, it is one of those things, I don't want to really go into too much more detail of the story, but it really shows how villains are tragic, and, that a lot of stuff is not necessarily black and white. It's really gray areas, and Dugan really captures that in the story. And then Scalero's artwork is absolutely incredible. This is really a gorgeous looking book, and it just really, once again, it's very emotional, where it's really just not like a typical villain story. It's really, it shows that tragedy and that once again, that gray area of villains and heroes, and it's really wonderful. I really, really enjoy it. So far, these have been absolutely just top-notch books, and it's great because they're also standalone, so you don't have to read any other ones. It's just standalone, so you can just read it on its own. So definitely that's another one really great to recommend this week. Next up, we have I Hate Fairyland #1, written by Scotty Young with artwork by Brett Bean. So this is a sequel to the original I Hate Fairyland storyline. Now, you don't need to necessarily have read that, because the good thing is that they do a recap of the basic premise of what it was, how Gert was a little girl. She went to Fairyland, she got trapped in Fairyland, and she went nuts and caused chaos in Fairyland. So where this story goes is that she has actually escaped from Fairyland, and now she's back in the real world, and she can't keep a job, because her childhood was so messed up. She just doesn't give a crap about anything. So excuse me. So it goes on, and so eventually, she goes to a bar, she gets drunk, she gets beat up, and then just as like things get their worst, she's offered a job by this really rich guy. And what it is so the job is I think his daughter's been kidnapped or is missing. And so what it is, he's hiring her because she's been kidnapped and taken to Fairyland. So Gert is like, oh crap, I don't want to go back there. So it's interesting to see where they're going to take this story. Now, the first series was actually written and drawn by Scotty Young. This one actually has new artwork by Brett Bean. And actually, I think it really does a nice job. And plus, it's a different story. And because she's grown up, I think having a different artist is actually kind of a smart idea, because it really separates the two stories, even though it's the same character. Now that she's older, it really, I think, visually works really well. Look, here's the thing, like, the stories are not really deep on these things. It's just kind of wild and crazy. It's uber violent, but it's very Looney Tune-ish, but even taken up a notch. Think of like Invincible, like, kind of like in The Boys, how it's amped up, like, they're like Looney Tune cartoons, but on steroids. And that's really what these kind of are. So definitely not for the kids. For sure. But, if you enjoyed the first one, I think it's worth checking out. If you're new to it, I think this is a good jumping on point. And if you do like this, then you might want to go back and, cause the original series is available in trades and stuff. So that's where that one is. It was actually pretty good. Next up, we have Stargirl, The Lost Children, #1, written by Jeff Johns with artwork by Todd Knock. So this, there was the Justice Society special last week, but this technically kind of ties into it, but kind of doesn't. It's more, think about it, the Justice Society overall. Now, so what this is so Stargirl, she basically has been going out on missions and her grades are failing, and she's, so her mom and dad are saying, well, you can't go out as Stargirl, you have to do your homework, you have to stay home, that, typical, like, you can't have any fun. So Red Arrow finds out, let me back up just a little bit. So it starts off in the past, and it kind of shows how all these heroes, excuse me, a lot of these heroes had sidekicks, and most of them were kid sidekicks. So, what Red Arrow has found out, and she teams up with Stargirl, that a lot of these sidekicks are now missing. They just disappeared all of a sudden. And so it's kind of like this kind of murder mystery type thing where they're trying to find out, hey, because Stargirl's like, I didn't even know that these sidekicks existed, because they kind of have literally up and vanished. So it's kind of this mystery sort of thing. What happened to the kids' sidekicks? So they're on a mission to find out what has happened to them, and that's the basic setup here. Obviously Jeff Johns created this version of Stargirl, or because she's related to Starman. And it comes from the Stars and Stripes series that he did back in the 90s. And so, of course, obviously, there's the television show based upon the character, and a lot of these characters have been in the TV shows. I think it's a good jumping on point if you haven't, and maybe you've seen the show and you haven't read the comics, because I don't think there isn't too much history that you have to know. I mean, they do, Johns does a nice job of setting the story up here of this story. And Todd Knox artwork, I'm really a big fan of his. I mean, he did some really great work in Young Justice, and he did some of the art on the Stargirl special month or so back. And it's really just, I think what I like about the Stargirl series books is that they're just fun. They're just good, fun stories, and sometimes that's actually kind of a nice thing. Next up, we have Blade, the Vampire Nation #1, written by Mark Russell with artwork by Dave Watcher. So what this is a standalone. I think it's a standalone story because it says, follow Blade in some Avengers thing. So I think this is only a one shot. But so what it is it's a murder mystery. So these freelance have went to wake up they kill a vampire counselor, Corvus. And so what it is so Blade's like the sheriff. So what it is around Chernobyl, there's like a vampire nation where it's kind of like they can kind of live on the outskirts of Chernobyl. And so what it is so there's vampires who live there. There's people who just work there during the day for the vampires, and then there's people who go to be vampires, and then there's people who basically earn a bunch of money and then they're just killed for fun by rich vampires. And so what it is Blade's the sheriff, and so he is sent by the head guy to go find out who killed him and what's going on. And, that's the basic premise here. Now, I'm a big fan of Mark Russell's, and I think this is a good story. I wouldn't say that I was blown away by it, but it's a good, solid story. And it's, once again, since it's a one and done, you kind of had to wrap it up. I think that's why doing a murder mystery is probably the wisest idea for, one-shot story like this. The artwork by Watcher was decent. I don't think I was blown away. Excuse me, but I think it was pretty decent artwork. It did the job. It wasn't spectacular, but it did the job. I think if you're a Blade fan, you're gonna like it. I don't know that it's a really high recommendation. I think if you like Blade, it's worth checking out. I just wasn't like blown away by the story. I will say I will not spoil it, but the last panel is actually quite intriguing, and you're like, And so I would like to see if Mark Russell ends up doing some more Blade. I'd like to see maybe a Blade miniseries by him. So that would be interesting. But overall, I think it was pretty decent. Not great, not amazing, but pretty good. Worth checking out, I think, if you're into Blade. Next up, we have Junkyard Joe #2, written by Jeff Johns with artwork by Gary Frank. So what it is, so Muddy Davis, who was the one soldier who survived in Vietnam of his regiment, of his team, came back, and this is like 50 years later, where he had done this cartoon comic strip for the newspapers, Junkyard Joe. And so he's retiring. He's not going to do the strip anymore. And because his wife has passed away, and he just doesn't want to do it anymore. So, he's at home and alone and everything. And all of a sudden he gets a knock on the door, and Junkyard Joe is actually at his door. And so he's like, what's going on? He thought maybe it was an imagination, because in the first issue, it was like he was told to not, ignore what happened, blah, blah, blah. And so even though he made the comic strip, everybody thought it was just like, Peanuts with a robot, So, and then I don't want to spoil the ending, but there's a nice twist at the ending where maybe Junkyard Joe has escaped or something like that. So once again, I will not say anymore. But I really liked how this second issue built nicely on the first issue. And once again, going back to that first issue, how it really set things up with him being introduced in the war in Vietnam and introducing Muddy Davis. So I think it's really intriguing where Johns is going to take the story in this. And then, of course, you have Gary Frank's artwork, which is always wonderful. He's just a really fantastic artist, and it's really, like I said, this issue has a nice twist on the story, so I think it'd be interesting to see where it goes. But definitely check it out, and if you can still find the first issue, I really am enjoying where they're taking this book. Next up, we have the Bone Orchard Mythos 10,000 Black Feathers, number 3, written by Jeff Lemire and with artwork by Andrea Sorrentino. So okay, so the story of Trish and Jackie. So Trish is the writer, and so now we're still bouncing back from like present day, where Trish has come back to the hometown. She's looking to find out what has happened to Jackie. Apparently Jackie's been murdered, but there's this, like, she may not be murdered. We don't know. So it goes back, this issue really kind of goes back to the night where she went missing. And so she she ends up kind of cornering the guy who was supposedly the guy who killed her, but he had an alibi and it wasn't his fault. Or, he didn't, I don't think he actually murdered her. That's my opinion, but I don't think he actually did. I think there's obviously something going on. And of course, with Lemire and Sorrentino, yeah, I think there's a lot more going on here. But what it is, it really kind of just it's really building on this story of, Trish and Jackie and where is Jackie? Because, like I said, we have this feeling that like she's not maybe dead. So it'll be kind of interesting to see. Like I said, I really am enjoying this. I'm a big fan of both of these guys. And I really like how the story is unfolding, how it just, for me, it's like a wave that kind of washes over you, and you're just like, you go back to think about how the story is started and where it's gotten to, and then where it's going. So it's really, this is really an amazing book. It's really, and then Sorrentino's artwork is just absolutely fabulous. I love how, once again, a lot of this, how he has the different art styles for the different time periods, like present to past. And in this issue, you kind of see a lot of those styles kind of blend together, because you're kind of getting closer to the timeline than when they were girls. So that was quite interesting in this issue. Once again, I really highly recommend the Bone Orchard Mytho books, especially 10,000 Black Feathers. Like I said, we're in the 3rd issue, and it'll be really interesting to see where it lands when it ends. And finally, this week we have Nightwing number 98, written by Tom Taylor with artwork by Danielle Di Niculo. So this issue introduces Nightmite, which is like, he's an imp just like Batmite. So he's Nightwing's version of Batmite. So Nightmite shows up, and so what it is that there's this girl who's the daughter of the villain that was killed. What it is she's the daughter of one of his, Okay, back up. She is the daughter. He sold her soul to the demons, and so basically, what it is Nightmite tells Nightwing that he needs to go and help her and save her, basically save her soul. And so what it is, so it's kind of like it's like a magic issue, and so the best part is Bitewing goes, and Bitewing is now can talk thanks to Nightmite. And so they go and they battle the demons and everything. Of course, they win. It's just a fun little issue, and I love how that the one thing I'm loving what Tom Taylor's doing with Nightwing, but I really love how he's kind of taken the Batmite character and really fit it into what this Nightwing, current Nightwing character is. And this is really a fun issue. It's kind of a nice standalone issue. I mean, obviously it has threads from what has happened, but it is a good standalone issue. Of course, we always miss Bruno Redondo when he does it. He did a nice cover for this issue, but Nicolio's artwork is actually really nice and fits. It is able to do, especially with the Nightmite, that cartoony style that it needs. So it's definitely a good fill-in issue. We, like I said, we always miss Bruno, but Nicolio does a really good job and really keeps things moving along in this issue. So definitely, I love this book. I love every issue of this book, and can't wait to see, because they're leading up to, we got 2 more issues till we get to 100. So there's going to be a big anniversary on that one. That's going to do it this week. Like I said, it's a really small week. Excuse me. I do want to point out, because it happened earlier, past last review, when I mentioned the passing of Kevin Conroy. He was the voice of Batman. There's no gray area. He passed away this last week, and it's really Batman the Animated Series, I remember when it premiered, and because it premiered in primetime. The first episode premiered on Fox in primetime. And it was a revelation. The whole series was a revelation, and the voice cast was amazing. And of course, Kevin Conroy, for over 30 years has been the voice of Batman. He's really been the best Batman there ever was. And it's really sad, but the legacy he has left will once again inspire generations to come. So it was a sad week in that note, and we wanted to mention his passing and his impact on not only the animated series, but even in comics, because I know when I read a lot of the comics, I hear his voice, so that tells you how great he was. So with that being said, as always, public service announcement: I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics, Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner runs a great store there. They offer great pull service. They offer discounts on trades and hardcovers and manga. It's a really great store. I highly recommend it. Ryan, Annie, Eduardo, Wendy, Derek. It's a great crew, great customers. Definitely check them out. And if you live in the LA area, there's Pulp Fiction Culver City. Same name, different owner. Chris and her team runs that. Same discount, same pull service. But as always, support your local comic shop. Like I said, I really highly recommend the Long Beach store. Not that the Culver store is bad. The Culver store is very good. But obviously, I have more fondness for the Long Beach store. But, once again, support your local comic shop. Pick up your books. And as we end our show, every week, please be kind to each other. Kindness goes a long way. Being kind to others is very important right now, especially with all the stuff going on. So be kind to each other, be safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves. Hopefully I'll be a little bit better next week. Take care of yourselves. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as always, it's take care of yourselves. So thanks for watching. This is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com signing off. Take care. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.